Hi, Memorial School. You know who I am. It's Mrs. Vining. I've missed you, and I'm so glad to have you watch this video with me. We are going to get together from time to time and use a video in order for me to be able to show you some of the really exciting ways that we can make art. So one of the first videos, this one, is I'm going to introduce you to some different materials, and we can talk about some different things you can do with them at home. We are not in the art room where we have access to everything, and it really doesn't matter what you make art with during this time when we're not going to Memorial School. So you might have crayons, you might have markers, you might have really cool paint pens, or these are glitter markers, you might have scented markers, you might have colored pencils, and you might also have paint or clay. And whatever it is that you have, I encourage you to use whichever one you think will work best for the different lessons that I'm going to post on Google Classroom. So check back every week and we'll do different lessons together. And I'm going to be doing different examples on video so that you can see what I'm doing, so that we can ask questions or make comments underneath my video. And that's going to be through YouTube, and I'll put the little links right on Google Classroom. So if you found this video, you found the first link, and we'll just keep going from there. So the other thing is, when we are doing different types of drawing things, it's sometimes difficult to switch a material. So for example, if I want you to do a painting and you don't have any paint, I may kind of give you some ideas about how to change paint types of techniques into a drawing technique. And that's actually what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to teach you a very simple mark making technique. And in painting, they call that brush strokes. With a marker, this is a Sharpie. You don't need to use a Sharpie, but any marker would be just fine. A brush stroke is made with a paintbrush, right? Because it's a brush. But a brush stroke type mark can be made with a marker. And that's probably why they call it a marker, is because it's really good at making marks. So when you're using a piece of paper, I have my paper right here, and I want to make some marks. Mark making can be really fun. You can do something called hatching. Hatching is where you draw little lines like that. That's hatching. You could do something called cross hatching. Cross hatching is where you do little lines going this way, and then you do little lines going across. That's called cross hatching. And then you can do something called scumbling. Scumbling's really fun, where you just kind of wiggle your tool, whatever tool you use, a paintbrush, a pencil, a pen, a crayon. You can do that with anything. This is a marker right now, as we know. Scumbling looks like that, just like a bunch of scribbles. Isn't it neat? But those are very controlled scribbles. I wasn't going all crazy on my paper. And then the last one is called stippling. And stippling is a mark making where you put little tiny dots very, very, very close together, just like that. Really small little dots. Lots and lots and lots of them. Just like that. That's stippling. So all four of these are different mark makings that we can use with a marker, a pen, a crayon, a pencil, whatever. And we can use those to do something called shading. So when you're drawing, you can create the look of something three-dimensional by shading it on a piece of paper with any tool. It doesn't matter which. So this is a pretty exciting lesson because we're going to learn how to use these different marks. It doesn't matter what you're using to do it with, but we'll make some shading happen. So I'm going to draw myself a circle, and I'm going to draw myself a triangle. But I'm going to leave the bottom off. Just hold that up and show you. See, circle and a triangle. At the bottom of the triangle, I'm going to make a curve. Okay, so just like this. A very soft, gentle curve. Do you think you know what that's going to be? Probably a cone. Now, if I shade these, they're going to look three-dimensional, and I can shade them with these different shading techniques. We can use hatching, cross-hatching, scumbling, or stippling. So it's your job. You get to try. Maybe you want to try them all. Maybe you want to try one or two of them. I recommend that you try them all. So on a separate paper, you can draw these two forms. These are three-dimensional forms. This is going to become a sphere, and this is going to become a cone. They're not a sphere or a cone yet because they're missing something really important. They're missing shading. They have no shading yet. So as soon as I start adding some shading, I'm going to start making them look three-dimensional, and that is a very cool trick. Okay, so if you look on my Google Classroom, you'll find a sheet that has these 4 different techniques, and it has the different forms that I'd like you to try. And I'm just going to do it right now for you so you can see how they transform, okay? I'm going to turn it around. And remember, I'm just using a marker. I want to make sure you can see that as best as you can. And I think I'm going to use the cross-hatching technique. Now, hatching has to be done with little marks. Markers are great for using marks. I like to hatch with curvy hatches. I like to cross-hatch with curvy cross-hatches. And I'm following around the circle. As I get around the circle, I'm going to make less of them. See, it almost looks like a crescent right now. I'm not done yet. I have to keep doing a little bit more. I've really mostly gone in one direction, but cross-hatching has 2 directions. Some are going up and down, and some are going across. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to crisscross through them in the opposite direction. What that does is that creates a darkness. As the more lines that I make, the darker it looks. And you can start to see kind of along the edge here, it's a little bit lighter. There's less of a darkness. And I wonder why that is. Do you think there's more lines there or less lines there? There's a lot less lines. So as I make lines get further apart, as I make lines get closer together, I can create darker shades and lighter shades using a marker or a pen or even a pencil. Okay, so this mark making is a way to create shading, and I'm going to keep following the shape of this form. I don't want to just do weird things that like straight rectangle lines on a circle. I want to always make my lines round because a circle is round. And if I make my lines round and I make my circle round and I make my shading round, it's going to look round in 3D like a sphere. So I'm almost done with this one. Just a little bit more. Just a little. And I can also press lighter with my marker. Even though it's a marker, I can go lighter and lighter and add less and less, always going around. I can't wait to see you try this. Now, hatching is super fun. Stippling is actually my favorite because you have to draw lots of little dots and it's super exciting to see. So there you go. I have a sphere and it's going around and around and around, and I have this bright spot right here. This is called a highlight. This is where the brightest spot is. This is where if we had like a flashlight and we shined it on a ball, that's where the flashlight would hit, and that would be the brightest part. You don't have to draw anything there. A highlight will be blank, so I'm going to leave that blank. It gets a little darker, and the darkest is all the way over here, the opposite of this bright spot, way on the other side. It's really fun to try. I really hope you give it a try. This last one is a cone, and I'm going to do that one right now with you, and I'm going to just do regular hatching. Hatching is drawing long, straight lines. Following the form on this one's a little bit trickier because you can't have it go just straight up and down the whole time. You have to kind of fan it out like a fan. So you have to start at the top and you're going following this side, but then as you go across this cone, you have to start following it this way. So this one I did pretty quickly. It's darker on this side. There's more marks. And as I went this way, I lessened the marks, and they less and less and less until I got to this bright white area. So one side looks darker. Can you see that? One side looks lighter, and this is shading it to make it look more 3D. Pretty cool, huh? And so over here is my highlight. So imagine if I had a flashlight shining on this cone, this side would be brighter, this side would be darker. So those are 2 simple forms that you can try. You'd have to practice this at least 2 times to really see if you can figure out how to get that shading done. But if you keep in mind that you can have marks, mark making is a great thing, and it's really fun to explore. So give it a try. Make sure you check out my sheet that's attached to my classroom. That will help you follow the steps again, and you can watch this and test it anytime you want, okay? And don't forget to upload anything that you do. I'd love to see your creations. All right. Bye.